Looks like we're full. We're going to get started. There's no reason to wait. I'm Tufan Erkan and
Eileen Brannon.
Eileen Brannon here. Let's get our clicker. I have been with SunGard for a while now, and all my background is around business intelligence and data warehousing. I have done mostly corporate performance management, BI, dashboards, scorecards type of work, all my consulting career. And Eileen?
I'm the Performance Management Director for Oncor Electric Delivery, and I worked with Oncor for over 33 years. And I worked in various aspects of the electric utility industry. I started out in operations, distribution operations in West Texas. I've been in environmental, customer service, engineering, design, construction, and my current job in performance management.
And both of our emails are here, and as well as phone numbers. If you have any questions, anything that you can think of later on, please feel free to reach us out. Start.
So, Oncor, who are we? Well, we're the largest regulated utility in transmission distribution services in, well, provider, 6th in the United States, but we're the largest in Texas. And we are number 1 in the United States is number of megawatt hours delivered. That was as of the end, well, in 2012 and 2013. And lastly, we just provide the wires and the data. We aren't the generator, and we don't bill because Texas is in a deregulated market.
Yeah, if you guys understand the transmission business, it has 3 components: electricity generation, electricity transmission, and then electricity retail at the end, right? The people who send you your bill based on your consumption. And Oncor provides the data to the retailer, and that way retailer can bill you for your electric bill.
In Texas. May not be that way anywhere else. We are no longer a vertically integrated utility, so to speak.
Yep. And as far as SunGard goes, SunGard is I'm part of, as I mentioned earlier, SunGard Consulting Services. Oncor is my client. At SunGard, I lead the data management effort, and we have 3 big sectors. You've probably heard of SunGard Availability Services. We just spun that off recently, and now we got 3 big sectors left: financial, public, and K-12. And SunGard Consulting Services is just basically solving business problems for our clients using our services. Our presentation today is going to have 2 sections. One, from the IT side, which is where I come from. As I mentioned earlier, I am the IT data management. And then the second piece is going to look at it from the business perspective, which is where Eileen is coming from. She is the Director of Corporate Performance Management. And so we're going to talk about the discovery zone concept. And then we're going to talk about how the Corporate Performance Management group is using Tableau within their group to better our business. So let's get started. So as you all know, you all experienced, the biggest problem is businesses, the functional teams need data. We need access to the data. We need it right away. We need it as soon as possible. IT's been a bottleneck. I don't want to send them a report request and then take days, months, or if it's a data warehouse project, sometimes maybe 6 to 8 months to get the data, right? It's no longer working. So number one, the functional teams need data in a timely manner. And number 2, the old style of doing data warehousing BI takes too long. In our environment, it takes anywhere from 6 to 8 months. And it's because most of our services are outsourced. Our maintenance is outsourced. Our networking and the infrastructure is outsourced somewhere else. Professional services somewhere else. And in order for us to do a data warehouse project, we have to bring all these groups together, statement of works come together, and all that. It just takes forever for us to get anything done. So, of course, as a result, business is hurting. They cannot get the data and the information that they want. They're trying to do it on their own. So what are they doing? They are requesting access to the application itself, and not the UI of the application, but the database of the application. And then they have free access to the database. They go start writing their own queries, and they use whatever tool they have in place. And of course, that's an IT nightmare, as you can imagine. It creates a lot of issues, such as security risks of some of them actually using access to create an ODBC connection to our, let me give you an example of Maximo database, right, which has all of our assets. They not only use it as a link, but they download the data into Access database. At that point, we have no control of the data. God forbid if they lose their laptops or somebody get a hold of that Access database, if they copy it into a Google Drive or something. So there's a lot of issues associated with that.
Guilty as charged.
And again, the drivers behind us doing this was we want to make business happy, right? We want to make sure that the functional teams get the data that they need, get the information that they need. But at the same time, we, from a data management perspective, from an IT perspective, we want to put some processes in place that kind of puts a governance around the use of that data, right? As well as manage the whole information lifecycle process. So we came up with the vision of, okay, we're going to enable information delivery that's timely, that's very important, that's reusable, that's secure, and stored in an enterprise repository where we can scale as the needs grow. Okay? Some of the benefits of this approach was, number one, of course, we enable access to the information from a functional team perspective in a timely manner. And then we separated all of the analysis or ad hoc type of reporting from the operational work of the application. And all of the reporting will be offloaded from the application itself. And at the same time, we have an EDW in place, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. We also want to give access to that data as well as the data that's coming from the application. And we are a regulated company, as we mentioned earlier, so we have to have certain data retention requirements for legal, regulatory, and all those purposes. For example, we have to keep all of our billing data going back to the market open, which is like 12 years. But we don't want to keep this 12 years worth of data in the application. So this discovery zone also enabled us to take some of that data that we have to keep, but we don't want to keep in the operational application, into an area where we can keep it at a longer retention for regulatory purposes. And also the security, right? We have better controls because now we have taken data from applications and put it in the central area, and we can control the access, we can control the views on that, and all that type of stuff. So currently, the way it works at Oncor is we have applications. As I mentioned, we have an enterprise data warehouse, which has several layers in it. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. And then we have application, operational data store, and most of our enterprise reporting comes from the top, and the operational reporting comes from the bottom. So how does Discovery Zone fit into this? The concept of Discovery Zone is now functional teams, the business side, is getting smarter and smarter.
We are.
And more technical from a data access perspective, right? And tools like Tableau is making that possible, because before, for you to give an access to business, you had to give like Toad or Access or things like that. So we tried to do that with Cognos, but it turned out that it was kind of hard for the end users to get, and it still required a lot of the IT preparation on the back end. And it became, again, IT was becoming a bottleneck. The tool was not as user-friendly. The non-technical people couldn't work with the tool as well. So we said, okay, now that we have all this available, let's just go get the set of data that's important to the business from the application and replicate it into this Discovery Zone area. That's the first piece. That's called the data availability. It's a subset of transactional system data, identical data and table structure, no changes, no transformation, no ETL, nothing. It's just table replication. It could be a one-time thing. It could be a recurring refresh. It could be near real-time or batch. It could be based on messaging, replication, or ETL. And it could be, just one second, the retention may be longer than the operational system. As I mentioned earlier, we may keep 2 years here and 10 years here. You have a question there?
So the same data
it is, this here is Oracle for us, and source systems could be Oracle or any other system.
So identical data table when possible.
Yes, and I mean, there may be some, for example, data types may not match. Then we may have to do some of that conversion, but it's as similar as possible.
And the purpose of that, the beauty of that from the business unit perspective is I don't have to rewrite my thousands of queries that I've already developed over the years. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and then that means no data modeling going on.
That's right.
Between here and here.
That's right.
No MDM, for example.
Not at this point. So what we do later on is we build a data access layer on top of this. On top of this discovery area, we build a data access layer, which could reach into our EDW and give some of that data as well. But again, this is not very complex views, or there isn't much business rules and calculations and stuff like that. Some of the views we had to materialize in the past for performance reasons because some tables were really big. So we worked through those. Again, the purpose is to make the data available to the business as soon as possible in the format that they're familiar with, as the application format, right? And the time to market for this is 1 day. Earlier, somebody was asking me when, who was it at lunch? Was that person here? I had lunch with somebody, and she said, so how is it different? I said, time to market is 1 day. So when business requests access to data, we get it to them the next day. I'll explain how that happens. We have developed these processes. Actually, and then lastly, we allow them to, we say, okay, use whatever tool you want to use. Go ahead and go against this data access layer and get the data you want. So let me walk you through the process. And the process that we developed is we have a form and which only asks a few questions, 3 or 4 questions. What application? What data set? And if you know the table names. If you don't know, you can just give us a subject area. And then who needs access to it? That's it. Once they give us that form, that night, we turn it in, and all of our maintenance group is offshore in India. They work on that overnight, and they make a copy of that available in Discovery Zone the next day. So from a business perspective, they submit a request on Monday. Tuesday, they have the data in Discovery Zone. Although it's not being refreshed right away, it's not real time or anything like that, but at least they have the data right away, and we start working on the replication process on the back end. And again, replication processes we have worked so many times. Currently, we have more than 1,000 tables in this area, so it's gotten very repetitive. Like they can do, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 tables in 3-4 days at the most. So from a time to market perspective, it's really fast, and they can get the data they want really fast. Of course, there's a lot of gotchas that you have to be careful. He mentioned one of them, master data management, right? You have to keep track of, I think, metadata management is even more important here. Who owns that data? Where did it come from? And what are some of the retention requirements? What's the data classification? Is there any PII data? Is there any confidential data? Is there any public data? And all that type of stuff. I'm not going to get into all those details, but if you want to know about it, just reach out to me. We can talk more. So this is our enterprise data warehouse. Today we have an enterprise operational data store. We have an historical data store and a bunch of data marts. This is the process that's taken too long for us to do. Put the data in staging, integrate, load, validate, transform into historical, and then create dimensional data models and all that. Now, having said all that, we still have all of that in place. We still have all of our enterprise scheduled reports that needs to come out on a regular basis, on a scheduled basis, distributed on an automated basis. It all come out of there because it has also SLAs and a lot of KPIs and stuff like that. But from a business ad hoc reporting perspective, it comes out of our discovery. So, yes? Yes. If there is any data that doesn't exist anywhere else in any of the applications, you know, the things that you have it on the side, things like job titles, And I mean, we have it in our HR system, but if you didn't have something like that.
Is that turnaround a day as well?
No, Excel, I mean, we can just put it in right away. And it doesn't require any replication, most of them, unless it's just changing a lot. But basically, anything, any type of data, that's why I put some Excel in there. So far, as I mentioned earlier, we have put close to 1,000 tables in the discovery area, and there's a lot more coming up. And this is, of course, enabling our business, our functional teams, to be able to get to this data really fast.
And that's what we're looking forward to.
Some examples of this is an example that we did customer segmentation. We have surveyed a lot of our customers, and then looking at the survey results, we put them in certain categories, certain customer segments, like people who are energy savers and green initiative oriented people, or people who are older generation and they don't care about the electronic communication and stuff like that. All they want is just letters or telephone calls and stuff like that. So we came up with 4 different categories, 4 different segments, and then we took that segment's characteristics and developed the data mining model and applied it to the rest of our customers, which we have 3.5 million customers, and we cannot survey all of them. Based on that, we came up with some segmentation models and see which type of segments, which group of people live in which areas, and then based on that, we can do some more targeted marketing and stuff like that. So this is an example of that. Another example, this is a heat map of which zip codes are using the most amount of energy, and then which zip codes are experiencing the most amount of service orders. So when you put it in a heat map, what's really important for us is darker reds, because the color represents the number of service orders, darker is higher, and then the size of the box represents the usage or the consumption, bigger is higher. So we look at big boxes that are darker color, which means those are our most customers that are using the most amount of electricity, but also experiencing the most amount of service orders or outages and stuff like that. So this is another example. These are just the simple ones, and Eileen's going to get into a little more details of this. So here's a Dilbert cartoon that I'm sure you guys have seen. I'll let you read this for a second.
Absorb this.
My boss has this printed out on his desk.
All
Yep.
right.
I love this one because it's just everywhere you go, they're like, we need a dashboard, we need a dashboard.
I hear that every day. So, Oncor, why Tableau? And maybe the question is, why not Tableau? From my perspective as a department head, I could afford Tableau. I could afford several licenses within my organization. I have 23 people in my group, and we support the enterprise across the northern part of the state of Texas, and we support 3,500 employees within Oncor who are always asking questions. So, the licenses were not expensive. Free training, oh my gosh, absolutely. That was wonderful. The wonderful thing is, if we install it on a desktop and then we did migrate to a test server site, we could transfer that information very easily into server-based environment. And so the next biggest thing for us was that it kickstarts data analysis. And I have an operations research group in my organization, and we do heavy-duty analytics within our organization. I have several data scientists, 1 PhD, and so they just run circles around data. But Tableau gives them the creative spark to kind of put things together that we've never put together before, put different data sets together and see what happens. And you all saw examples of it today. We're just in the very formative stage. We've been with Tableau maybe a little over a year. And I'm going to show you some examples of how we have utilized this over the course of this last year with Oncor. And do you click or do I click? Okay.
I click.
He's in
Are you
control.
ready?
He's in charge. Go.
Here.
Really? I get to do this? Okay. Here we go. Oh, no, I don't want to. Okay. Here we are currently today. As you can see, we're primarily ad hoc in analysis. We aren't dashboarding very much. And we only have less than 20 licenses to date within Oncor total. So today our objectives are kind of limited in that we want to leverage the data that's currently on hand. We want to bridge that gap between analysis and decision making. We want to help people make the right decision. How are we currently using visualizations? Well, we wanted to provide a new look to some old reports and maybe add some sectors into those reports that maybe no one has ever thought of before. And we wanted to build a logical story. And we talked and we heard and we saw the storytelling piece of Tableau today. So one of my colleagues is sitting next to me getting all excited about all the stories she's going to be writing whenever she gets back. So it's just that kind of creative spark. This is an illustration of how we used Tableau in the recent past. We had a very large storm. And sometimes when you're in the midst of a large event, you don't really get the effect of what you're experiencing. And Tableau gave us the opportunity to look at a very large event, an icing event that occurred in December of 2013 in the Dallas-Fort Worth and northeast regions of Texas. And as you can tell by this weather map, there were 4 inches of ice accumulation and 1 to 3 inches in a very large area of Texas. 4 inches of ice on power lines and on foliated trees, it will tear your trees down, it will fall into your power lines, it will rip your power poles apart. And that's what we experienced in December. There's a little visual there. At the peak of the event, we had over 200,000 customers out. We serve, within the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, over 2.3 million metered points. We had, over the course of the event, over 800,000 customers outaged. So this was not a small event. And because it was not small, we were forced to look back at our restoration efforts and explain our restoration efforts to our Public Utility Commission.
So almost 1 million customers affected out of 3
This
3
is
million
not a normal
customers.
event for
This
Texas.
this was big.
We don't do ice.
Yeah.
We do tornadoes and thunderstorms, but we rarely do ice, and especially with 4 inches of accumulation. We couldn't even clear the roads. There was no road grader. There was no icing system available. So anyway, I'm going to show you what we developed in Tableau to tell the story. And it's a 4-part workbook. And we have, one of my guys did this for me. It's on autopilot right now.
And we also have the actual Tableau workbook here, so I can show that also.
Right. So there are the workbooks. Okay, Oklahoma, Texas line, Dallas, Fort Worth, Paris, Texas, not Paris, France. And if you'll see, that indicated the density and the effect of where the outages were within that storm. And down here you have a timeline where we have the outages and we have the restoration, the red line representing restoration. Oh, and then we go to the second one. He's a little fast. And here's our date time stamp, beginning December 5th, ending December 12th. And if you'll see, both of these working in tandem. You see the cities, the highest outage cities. You see the density on the map, outage map up here, and you see how we're progressing outages to restoration over the course of the 7 days. This we were able to go back in history and recreate. We've never been able to visualize an event like this before to our commissioners, much less to ourselves and our executives. But with Tableau, we were able to for the first time. So what does this get us? Well, the density, and as you can see, Paris, still out, dark red. What the heck's going on with Paris? Okay, finally, as we get closer to the end, everything just kind of dissipates, and you see a second wave of minor, and then eventually get back to normal operations. The third book in the workbook, we drill down to see, here's the Metro Dallas area, here's the number of customers impacted. Fort Worth area, number of customers impacted, Northeast. So we were able to segment. We also could tell which equipment was contributing to the outages. And we have another workbook coming up, equipment failure workbook, I think now. Okay. And if you look over here, here's the equipment, and the density of the color is indicating what equipment was most impactful to the customers with the longest outages. And here is duration by the type of equipment over the course of hours. And the average number is 32 hours. We can drill down to specific service center locations. Arlington, Texas, for example. We would drill down to that in Tableau. And it's, I haven't touched anything.
So earlier,
Paused.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Earlier somebody was asking, so how do you use this information? And looking back is good in a way because we are learning how to look forward from that. All looking at all of our outages, we started developing a pattern of all of our outages. If you think about the Texas map, is on a line, always on a line from northeast corner to southwest corner. And that whole line moves to east throughout the outage. So Eileen was talking about they can actually predict as soon as an outage happens where it's going to move and how long it's going to take.
How the event is going to affect outages in a predictive manner. And is it science? Is it correct science? No, it's just predictive in nature right now, which means best guess. But what we've got, we've established this now in a past historical look. So the next major event that rolls along, we've already got this built. So we can start plugging in the data as soon as we get our hands on it.
Soon.
And
that's what IT says always, right? Yes,
yeah.
we're getting there.
Near real time. As near real time as the data will allow us is what we're looking forward to.
Right. So we're going to have an ETOR, estimated time of repair, before the outage. So before somebody experiences an outage, we're going to be able to say, hey, if you're going to experience an outage and it's going to take us this long for us to fix.
Yep. We've been working on that for a while. So anyway, the next example that I want to share with you has to do with every industry has experienced people that are retiring. And the utility industry is no different. And so what we did is we did a study and we came up with a Tableau feature that I'm kind of going off script here because it's moving faster than I can talk. But
you want to pause it?
Yes, please. Oh, that's great. Oh, okay. There we go. Pause. There we go. Let's pause here. Take a breath, shall we? We did some analysis. We got a lot of how people move into and through various job titles within our company over the course of time, and their age and their level of expertise and titles and so forth. And what you have here is an illustration of senior craft and technical employees versus apprentices and new hires, and how are we going to answer the question, how many apprentices do we need to hire? An apprentice takes about 3 years for this person to become competent and confident in their ability to repair distribution and to build distribution lines within a utility industry, transmission and distribution. So just for example's sake, we said in this scenario that of the 668 current employees, senior level employees at year end 2014, there are 68 openings. And then in 2015, we predicted 2071, 85 is all predictive in nature. Well, do you just run out there and hire 68 and expect things to be great? No, because of the 3-year learning curve and the training. And so is it prudent, the question is it prudent to go ahead and hire all these people all at once? Do we hire them in a staged event? And so that's what the top chart kind of indicates. We ran a scenario, and so the red line is basically restricted hiring between 2014 and 2018. In other words, we're measuring it so that we may not hire all 68 in a year. We may hire half that. knowing that they've got 3 years out. It's just about a cost balancing, cost to responsibility balancing for the company. And so this Tableau feature allowed us to visualize this for the first time so that people could ask the question and maybe come up with scenario answers. And our executives had not had that visualization prior to our group playing with Tableau. And we will let that run through. Now, here's how you look at familiar data up until we got Tableau and we're basically able to be competent in it. This is a reliability indices that we use, that the electric utility industries use to say how often were the lights on or off for us across the system. Okay? So here's just an example. These are not real numbers, but this is kind of what the flow looks like. So the top chart is system average interruption duration. It's just a histogram. And then we broke it down into the various regions, and they could look across it. And we would package this up into a 60-page package and send it out to the various region directors. Had no idea whether they read it or not. Don't know what conclusions they drew. We tried to help them draw conclusions so that they could manage their business. So, utilizing Tableau, I can do this. We came up with this because what this did for us, what Tableau did for us, it gave us the ability to break down from a day in a month throughout the year, and this ends in July 30th, and I don't know what year, 2014, there it is. And it indicates what region by color on the line, and it also indicates here's normal. Here's what we expect to be normal. Anything above normal is a pressure that was put on the day on our system reliability that we need to be able to explain. And so historically it was tabular, it was an email, it was, hey boss, I'll get right back to you. Now we have this built, and so the data that we gather on a regular basis, we update this line chart or this histogram. And you can see everything that falls above the line, we have annotated what it was that was the pressure for the day on our system reliability. So this gives everybody insight, and we aren't having to, oh gosh, do you remember what happened in the month of January last year that might have caused our reliability? No, I don't really remember. So we have to go and dig into a bunch of tables and do a lot of queries. Well, not anymore, because this is a workbook that we save and that we continue to update throughout the year. What else do I have here? Going forward. Going forward, we look forward to Tufan's Discovery Zone because my group will be one of the key users. We'll be most appreciative. And our objectives are that we want to do more dashboarding with Tableau. We want to minimize the ad hoc and produce things that people can access in a server-based environment. So we want to increase our server production capability. We want to increase the desktop licenses that are available so that more people can analyze, so that we can break down. What did Chuck said, one of my guys who works for me, he said, I want to democratize data analysis. I want to tear down the silos between the departments and the functions. I want it to be available to everyone. And I said, all righty then, let's go do that. And so as you can see, we still have these objectives, and we want to continue to move forward in this and take advantage of the new things that Tableau is giving us with data analysis and storyboarding and such. So thank you guys very much for your attention, and I hope that this kind of sparks a little bit of imagination for you. It has for our industry, and I think that there's going to be more to come in the utility industry as it relates to utilization of Tableau.
And I can show some of the Tableau workbooks. Oh, please go into your application and at the bottom rate the session, so that way we can get your feedback. I know we put a lot of information in. Let's do a Q&A. Yes.
So I'm the
Okay, we have a system called the Outage Management System where we actually, it's kind of a smart grid system. Some of our information is fed back to us from the various equipment that we have out in the field. And so we get as near real-time information as we can into this outage management system. So we're constantly mining that in order to update that. And we have historically run queries, manual queries against it, and then also had to revalidate the data, make sure the data was clean, because the wonderful thing about near real-time is it's near real-time. The not wonderful thing is it might not be clean. So when we see something that's anomalous, we double check it. And this visualization helps us say, are you sure that that region had that event that really impacted it by that many minutes? And so then we will drill down and we'll validate to see if there are some errors in the data. And then we will cleanse it and we will rerun it and it will be more correct.
Was there a question from a technical perspective or from an application perspective?
It looked like something that you would just type into an Excel spreadsheet. And
No, actually.
We actually pull it live from this outage management system.
Yep.
And so we have refined the Tableau side to where it knows what table to hit and when, so that we can continually refresh that as we need it for reporting purposes.
All of our meters are smart meters in Oncor. So like as I mentioned, we got 3.5 million meters. And if a meter loses power, it has enough energy stored in the meter to be able to send what's called a last gasp. It sends a message to our command center, and command center passes it to our outage management system, the OMS system that she was talking about. So we know before anybody calls and say that, hey, my light is out, we already know that their light is out. So this comes to us on a real-time basis, and this system gets the data from OMS.
Did you have a question?
from an analytic perspective, have you had to reconcile with the reports that are coming out of the data warehouse since the discovery zone is not cleansed, not integrated, versus
What we look
Well,
forward
let me,
to.
let me take that. So from, going back to the architecture, from this perspective, all of our data is in, all the data that's in the EODS, HDS, and data marts is cleansed and integrated and all that. And the data that's in here is in a raw format as it came from the system. So yes, we did experience some data quality issues where, from a data quality perspective, the people who are using the application may not experience that data quality because it's.
I'm sorry, I'm just with her. It's this lower right-hand corner. What are these people saying when
This?
they finally see the reports that come out of the other one? And they love to sit there and go like, you just gave me this report. I'm looking
Right.
at these numbers over here and they're not the same.
Oh, do you mean coming from here? This we actually. I had a. That's our application data store. This I have a. Oh, sorry. This is a AODS. I have a PowerPoint failure there. So the data that's coming from here is only the data that's going into the market. This operational reporting here is the one that we sent to ERCOT or the Power Utility Commission and stuff like that. So as a matter of fact, we get some of this data and put it in here for internal consumption as well.
Yeah, so maybe it's
Maybe
not the operational reporting, maybe it's just discovery to the KPIs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had the same question.
Yep.
So how does that get, typically this thing takes on a life of its own, and
Yep.
particularly our friends in operations research, they tend to have long-living ad hoc things that become production, and
Yep.
there's just a lot of
So that's all about.
it's a
That's
challenge.
the governance. Governance piece is very important. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. My biggest concern was this becoming a data dump. Right? Everybody's going to dump data, and then at the end, everybody's going to do their reporting out of that, and then what? Right? So there is a secondary purpose behind the madness. If you notice, we put the discovery zone right next to the staging. There's a reason for that. We actually, later on, we not only let the business team go after that data and do their ad hoc analysis, but at the same time on the back end, we are doing the rest of this process. Okay? We are right now restructuring our HDS. We are creating a complete new enterprise data store that is based on common information model for utilities. So there is a secondary reason behind doing this is also staging all the data and later on do the right thing. But there's, of course, there's a lot of reasons why you might want to do that right now. If there are too many business rules, if the calculations are too complex, if the data is not enough in its raw format. So there is going to be a lot of reasons why you cannot use Discovery Zone for the simple stuff that you want to do. Then you may have to do some of that downstream into the data river, I should say. So
Where this might evolve, where, for example, having the two sources of truth here, in this case, Discovery and DBW,
nothing.
DBW too expensive. I want you to do something simple like Discovery and use that for all their.
So, yes, and we
Just stop at discovery, forget the rest.
yeah, it's, well, there are a lot of them. It's stopping at discovery. If there is not enough value in that analysis, let's say somebody said, hey, I want to be able to take a look at all my asset data, right? I go get the asset data. I go get the location that I put it in there. I say, Mr. Business, knock yourself out. Go see if you find value in there. And then, if you do, if you think that, yes, the data is very valuable, this data is going to provide me what we're looking for from an ROI perspective, then we can do the rest, right? It's again, this is not shortcutting the right architecture. We are just trying to find out, is there enough value to do the right architecture? Before it was, they came to us and they said, hey, we need asset and location data. We spent 6 months, $1 million, and at the end they got all the reports in a dimensional format, beautiful, has no value, has no ROI. So it's kind of like, let's figure it out. In the meantime, you have access to the data that you want in the format that you want, familiar with, just similar to the source system. Knock yourself out. And you have the tools in your hand, Tableau. It's easy. You can do even simple joins and data. What's the word they use today? Data blending, right? Mm-hmm. Another thing I observed today, as you guys are, if you're in the BI industry for a while, or data warehousing industry, I'm seeing a trend. Before, businesses needed reports from IT, right? You ask for IT to do reporting, and IT would do it and give it to the business. Now, we pass that reporting functionality to the business. Have you guys walked through the exhibition area? Something very interesting just hit me yesterday. I was walking with Kemal. 90% of the companies out there are ETL companies. And more than half of them are saying that now ETL is for the business side. Reporting has shifted from IT to business. Now ETL is shifting from IT to business.
Well, that's why I asked about this.
All right.
Because one of the structures that, let's say if you look at Hadoop, for example, or any of the NoSQL structures, they start to look
Yep.
like two-column and that sort of like no data model or data model free.
Yep.
Schemalessness, right? And that pushes ETL into the business. So
Yep.
I was just wondering if this trend coincides with that, and then the highly modeled, highly normalized DBW eventually is de-emphasized.
Possible. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, where it's going to go, but I'm seeing the same trend that you're seeing. Reporting has turned into business. We're turning ETL into business. I mean, because again, I mean, this is something that is expected, in my opinion. It's if there is any bottleneck in any organization, if there's any slowdown, you find a better way. And if that's the better way, the faster way. And the other thing is, before the business, the velocity was not as fast. Now their requirements, reporting requirements, are changing on a day-to-day basis. The problem that they experience today cannot be solved with the reports that they have today. So they have to come up with, she was given an example. Why is this data this way? Now, a little more, a little more, a little more. Different way of looking at the data. And as that thing happened, we, as IT, need to get out of the way to make sure business success. Yes?
Are you able to instrument this to be able to determine what data actually gets used in the EDW, so over time you can deprecate that which has no value?
Yes. Yes, we actually have, they have an enterprise logging system that they keep track of which data sets are being used. Our HDS is an Informix database. And the reason for that is because of the volume. And we have a huge data problem. Not big data, but huge data problem. We have 3.5 million meters. Before they were smart meters, it was all, 1 meter provided us 1 data point per month, right? So every month we get 3.5 million data points. We subtracted the number from the previous month. We got the consumption. We send it to the retailers. Okay, go bill your customer. I don't know if you're familiar with the smart meters. Smart meters are, they send you 4 data points every 15 minutes to our data center. So let's look at the volume from that perspective. You got, instead of 1 data point per month per meter, now you have 4 times 97 15-minute incrementals in a day, and 96 in a total. And so let's say 100, 400 a day, 12,000 a month. Our data volume went from 1 to 12,000. And this, I'm talking about terabytes and terabytes of data. And as I mentioned earlier, I have to keep this data. I have to keep this data for regulatory and legal reasons. So I have, as I mentioned, I've been doing BI, and some of my friends here know we worked with like long time ago. Oncor is the only company that I worked at where we try to get rid of the data as quickly as possible. What's the maximum that we have to keep this data, and after that, let's eliminate it.
So what do you think that does to long-term studies? Kills it. That's
And
right.
I mean, we have some aggregated, like we lose granularity, but I mean, we have a huge data problem. So for that reason, that's Informix right there. And Informix has some capabilities for us to monitor what kind of data is being used, when it's used, who's using it, and stuff like that. And as well as a lot of other enterprise logging systems
You
that
have
are
a
being
gentleman
used. Sorry.
here and a lady.
So 2 questions actually. One simple. What's the population of people using the Discovery Zone right now? Like 10?
Probably right now it's anywhere from 50 to 100.
Okay. And then the other piece, given you're in a regulated environment, how does this affect your SDLC processes from an IT perspective?
It's-
If you're not going through this whole rigorous requirements design development process, what part are you actually designing or testing?
So when we came up with the strategy, the first thing we did is come up with a methodology of how we're going to do this, because we wanted to create a process that's repeatable and we can govern. So from an SDLC perspective, we have defined exactly what steps needs to be done. As a matter of fact, the first one we did, we only got 10 tables. We said, we're going to use this as a pilot program so we can create good project management methodologies. What do we need to keep track of? When do we need to keep track of? How long it's taking? How long does it take for us to do one table so we can come down to the unit estimate, unit price or unit estimate. So next time when we want 100, we know exactly what it's going to cost and how long it's going to take, right? And so we were very meticulous on the first one, and then we took that approach, gave it to our system integrators and said, okay, this is how we want you to do it. This is the tool we want you to use, and these are the deliverables we are expecting from you. And by the way, we are expecting this timeline. And actually, we were able to even refine that in each iteration. We have gone through probably 10, 15 iterations so far.
But your compliance team is every development.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks.
Can Eileen's team load into the discovery zone themselves?
No.
No. You guys-
Because I need to keep track of what data is there, who owns it, what kind of classification it has, what kind of retention it has.
Okay, so second kind of follow-up question then. Her team's in discovery zone doing something conceptual, proves out the value to the business owners. Now we want to kind of make it something more hard. Is that kind of launch the 6-month then $1 million process?
Well, think about it this way. So, yeah, the way we are doing it, we're actually doing it not for Eileen's team, but from a transmission team perspective. We started with those 10 tables that I was mentioning earlier, and they found value in it. They started developing their reports. But here's the interesting thing. Let me go back here. They are doing their reports on this layer. That layer encapsulates the business from the technical piece. So once I integrate the data, if that layer is pointing to here versus here, they're going to be, it's going to be relevant for them. As long as I provide the same data in the same format. That's why we have this data access layer on purpose there. So down the road, as we shift things from here to here, they're still going to continue to have their data. The only difference is going to be a better quality.
And is that shifting cost-effective on your end?
From IT side, as of course, as I mentioned, is transmission group finding value in it, and they say, yes, this is going to save company money, then at the executive level, both transmission head of lead and the IT head of lead are talking, and I say, hey, then I need to do this right thing for you, and it's gonna, and the cost sharing happens at the executive level. Go ahead.
Just a sort of tangible example, I guess, that I'd like to put on. So to some degree, this has evolved a little bit naturally lately at our firm, and mainly because there is such a backlog of requests to the BI team, and we are doing a lot more just data science and discovery and ad hoc customer research. And this is how it works out. I request some tables, and they get replicated somewhere, and I point my queries directly at those. And then I start, and once I find something interesting, start building a dashboard. My queries are not nearly as performant as the ones that are on model data.
That's right.
They've got like 12 joins. It's all really hairy. So I think there's that built-in incentive, if you really want a performant dashboard, to get it over into the hands of BI.
Yep.
But when you say that there's this access layer, how does that work? If I have a dashboard, I've already written the query, do you mean that BI looks at the results of my query and replicates it, and then I just swap out the data source?
Well, no, that's not what we're doing. We actually have views specifically created for that group that has the data that they're looking for. These views here, or materialized view, are not necessarily exact copy of these here.
Oh, so
Okay, because that view may be pulling data from this asset table, but also maybe pulling some other data from here.
Okay.
Right? That's why there are two layers there. So, but from what you mentioned, actually just brought up something really important. From an IT business versus IT perspective, this is all. I mean, business and IT always, did this, right? Because we are always bottleneck, and I understand that. But if you're doing your dashboards on a regular basis and you don't know if your query is the most optimized or not, and you don't want to support it on an ongoing basis, you don't want to start sending data out to everybody, sending reports out to everybody, and say anybody who has problem with the data or one day it didn't work, come to you, right? You want to hand it over to the management side or the maintenance side and let them manage all that processes. That's when also business come to the IT and say, hey, I think there's value in this. I think the team is going to benefit from it. So now I would like to call it enterprise. I'd like to make this an enterprise thing as opposed to my department thing, right? Within your department, you can handle. Eileen can handle her own things and stuff like that. Sorry.
Just a quick question. Considering the huge amount of data that you guys are dealing with here, have you given any thought to looking at cloud data storage providers and creating some type of a virtualization layer built on top of what you have in the cloud, on-prem, and into your enterprise data warehouse? Is that where you're
So we have some of our data already in cloud, all of our vegetation management, all of our HR data, and several other applications are on the cloud, like safety, yes.
That's Oncor does?
Yes. And as far as the reads, the meter reads go, I don't think we looked at a cloud because we made so much infrastructure investment here to keep that data in our premises, and because of all that regulation that I'm talking about. And electric delivery companies are,
Regard the privacy
it's not,
of our.
we are not at the edge of the technology when it comes to cloud and stuff like that.
Right.
It's just more of a, older mentality. And I know there are really great solutions out there, but it's going to take.
Regulated mentality.
Yeah,
That's
it's going to take us. It's going to take us a while before we get there.
Okay, but it's one of the things that had crossed your mind.
Yeah,
And it's-
absolutely.
This is done, your discovery infrastructure, that's implemented using relational database?
Yeah, Oracle.
Oh,
Oracle,
I see, that's all. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And you haven't run into any issues concerning contention or query performance?
No. So far, no. So
Exadata or just Oracle?
Oracle. Okay, I think we're. Is the next session right at 3:30? Do you know? Okay, one more question, and then we will.
Just I don't have much question. I just want to share something. We built a similar thing as you guys. We built a thing called Data Hub as your thing discovered in Zoom. So I think this is a common problem for most of the organizations. I asked the same question to Tableau last year. I asked the people from Tableau, why do I need to do this data warehousing, EW, fact tables, dimensions, ETL?
Yep. Yep.
Why I could just write a SQL and do a Tableau data extract? I asked the question. So the official answer from them is because people need to do their job.
Well,
Isn't that the way they sell it, though? Is you can go get any data that you can get.
hey, it has been that way. I completely agree with you. But again,
We
look
wouldn't
at
limit ourselves to just this, though.
This is a
There-
culture change.
Yeah.
exactly.
Very hard to make people believe you don't need to eat up.
Well,
It's very hard.
but you know what? 10 years ago, 20 years ago, ask a business to see, hey, are you going to write your own report? They would have said no. But the point is, it's shifting. You got to see this change. Reporting is done on IT now. ETL is going to be done on the business. ETL is going to be done on the business now. And I don't know where EDW is going from a future perspective. Yes.
Can I ask you guys your opinions too? Because we don't have a data warehouse. I'm trying to trailblaze with Tableau, and I have 2 developers. And a lot of the people in the company are looking at me like, that's great. We can use your Tableau data efforts to inform our data warehouse that they've been trying to build for 10
Yeah, your
years.
Tableau server becomes your data warehouse because it's loaded with extracts.
Well-
That's a very dangerous approach.
I'm not convinced.
Our contact information is again on the slides. Let me go back to the. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. I have a few business cards with me. If you want, you can have it. Thank you, guys.